No, wait till we get to the Q&A.
Good question.
Same way. Good morning. I love a rowdy crowd. My name is Sarah Barron. I have the great joy of being the pastor here at First United Methodist Church of Schenectady. And on behalf of this congregation, who is celebrating 27 years of being a reconciling congregation, I welcome you. I'm going to do the really boring stuff first. In the hall that is opposite this wall, there are bathrooms. There is a bathroom that is designated for women. There's a bathroom that is designated for men. And on a side space, there's a bathroom that is designated not gendered, handicapped accessible, and family friendly. We also don't care what bathroom you use. And for those of you who are able, there are also bathrooms upstairs. There are stairs on either side. And if you are mobile and need a bathroom, those will probably have the shorter lines. We hope that many of you are staying for lunch. That's going to be that way. There are lots of us, which is about the best news I've ever heard. But we have a 2-hour lunch break. So some people will be very hungry and want to eat immediately. Some people will want to chat for a while. It will all work out. I hope you have heard that we have 2 amazing events happening today. And this afternoon, we are having a worship concert with the one and only Mark Miller. It's a really good day, isn't it? And that is at 2 p.m. And after we hear our talk this morning, there's going to be an opportunity for questions and answers. Broad ranging, you can ask whatever you want within reason. The bishop did not say within reason, I did. But you may want to just think about the phrasing of your question. You might even want to think about it being a question and not a speech, but that's on you.
Oh, ouch.
I've met most of them. All right, now for an introduction. This morning, I have the honor of introducing our speaker, Bishop Karen Oliveto, the Episcopal leader of the Mountain Sky area of the United Methodist Church, which includes approximately 378 congregations in Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and one in Idaho. Bishop Oliveto was elected to the area after serving as the first woman pastor of the 12,000-member Glide Memorial United Methodist Church in San Francisco, California. She's the first woman to serve as senior pastor of one of the United Methodist Church's 100 largest congregations. And she served Glide from 2008 until her election as bishop. She was born on Good Friday in 1958 in the aptly named community of Babylon, New York. Earned her bachelor's of psychology from Drew University in Madison, New Hampshire. Go ahead, Drew.
New Jersey.
No, sorry, New Jersey, yes. All right, I'll give you another chance. The Drew people, go ahead. Her master's in divinity from Pacific School of Religion and her master's in philosophy and then PhD in sociology of religion from Drew University.
Yeah.
We're still very much in the Drew area, even though we're multi-seminary around here. Bishop Oliveto has served in rural and urban settings, as well as parish and campus ministry settings in New York and California. She's been a professor, a dean, and an author. The most recent of her books, which Intersectional Justice read as a book club, is Together at the Table, Diversity Without Division in the United Methodist Church, published in 2018. And now I'm going to be a little bit more personal. Bishop Karen has shattered the rainbow stained glass ceiling a bunch of times. But that isn't really why we love her. The role of bishop in the United Methodist Church is split into two really difficult pieces. One is to be a bishop to the whole church, to serve on boards and agencies, to agree to speak in random churches, to attend to the well-being of the whole. And it's a huge job. The other is to be a bishop to the area that one is sent to be the spiritual leader and administrator for an annual conference, to make appointments, preside over annual conference, oversee cabinet and staff. And it's a huge job. Bishop Karen is one of the few bishops who manages to do both of those tasks well. And I've noticed, and maybe you have too, that she took on herself a third role, I'm guessing through her discernment of God's calling. Because Karen serves as bishop and often pastor, and always encourager to the queer and trans community within the United Methodist Church, as well as those who seek inclusion on their behalf. I am regularly astounded at the amount of care that I see her offering on social media to an enormous number of people for whom I believe her words are life-giving and sometimes life-saving. Bishop Karen is married to Robin, a deaconess in the United Methodist Church, and here's my shout out to the deaconess home missioner community. Here's what you need to know. Deaconesses and home missioners are lay people who are called by God to be in a lifetime relationship in the United Methodist Church for the engagement with a full-time vocation in ministries of love, justice, and service. And if you want to know more about that, you can talk to Karen's spouse or mine.
Yes.
Bishop Karen is one of my reasons for hope in the United Methodist Church. It is so clear that the Spirit of God works in her and through her, and because she has hope, it makes it easier for me to have it too. And now I'm going to step aside and let you welcome our speaker, Bishop Karen Oliveto.
Oh, good morning. Thank you so much, Sarah, for that wonderful introduction. And I kind of feel like it's back to the future. I think we started this conversation to do this in 2020. Dana reached out to me, and then it was 2021, and then it was 2022, and now it's 2023, and here we are. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Dana, thank you for all the hospitality you're providing. So grateful, so grateful. Now, I've heard it said in some quarters that a good leader, and this is some things that I've been told, a good leader never says when they're wrong. They never admit it. Now, I have to tell you, I don't subscribe to that form of leadership. If I've made a wrong decision, if something I've done has created brokenness, if I've unknowingly fostered a falsehood, I believe it is my duty to those I serve and tell them, admit when I've been wrong and ask for forgiveness. So I have a confession to make. I'm not proud of this, but I owe it to you to be real. Let me breathe a minute. This goes back to 2008. I was very public in my opinion that Twitter would be a quickly passing phase. I think I might have even tweeted it out. I mean, what meaningful discourse could happen with 140 characters? Well, maybe I wasn't that wrong after all. You're quick. I know it's early. Keep up. In the ensuing years since Twitter took off, and especially since Mr. Musk took over the helm, Twitter has shown that not only is meaningful discourse almost impossible on the platform, but it is mirroring a society that no longer knows how to engage in civil debate. Since 2016, there has been a marked societal breakdown in the United States. Empathy is seen as a weakness. An honoring of different life experiences is derided as wokeness, and a desire for equity and justice a deficiency. Sociologists have studied the role that social media has in all of this. While social media can bring people together, and I rejoice that there's many people here that I am close to because of social media, we've also seen the way that it can fracture community, the way it can foster cyberbullying and promote false narratives. Perhaps it's the anonymity of social media that allows our shadow side to have free reign. If one were to scroll through one's Twitter feed right now, my hunch is that it is less than uplifting and edifying. Perhaps it's not so much a carnival sideshow mirror of our world than it is a magnifying glass. Last summer, Robin and I were able to be with our niece as she was moving into her apartment in Boston for grad school. We had a wonderful visit. And, she was a little anxious about moving from Arkansas to Massachusetts. It is funny now that I think about it. And moving into adulthood. We went out for a meal and had the usual family banter, but suddenly the conversation took a very dark turn. We were talking about current events, and she became extremely agitated. You adults have left us with a mess. The planet is dying. Politics are toxic, and there is nothing we can do about it. You have made our future bleak. I was so distressed that a young person could be so hopeless about the future. Instead of looking around the world, honestly assessing its brokenness, and then engaging in direct action, demonstration, and protest, she felt that her generation had absolutely no agency, that we were on the road to destruction with no exit ramp. It's been our young people, and we have been them, that had the audacity to be optimistic. They've been the ones who could see visions of something more, something better, something just. It was the young that marched for civil rights, that called for an end to nuclear proliferation, that acted up against a government that refused to acknowledge AIDS, that took to the streets for the Vietnam War, the Afghanistan War, and the Iraqi War, that changed the culture's consciousness about sexual harassment by telling our Me Too stories, and that is leading the movement for climate justice. Yet my niece, and many like her, feel hopeless. Are our young no longer voices of conscience, but the canaries in the mine? When their hope is gone, do we have enough of our own to offer an antidote? So I want this to be a more engaged time. Holy conversations are that we all get to talk. And so I would like you to turn to 2 or 3 people, take about 10 minutes to answer this question. What breaks your heart and leaves you on the brink of hopelessness? Really, turn around, 2 or 3 people, about 10 minutes, have a conversation. What breaks your heart and leaves you on the brink of hopelessness?
Back. Such a gift.
Well, 24 is going to be outrageous. Make sure everybody has had a chance to share. Take another 2 minutes. Okay, start to bring it to a close. I have a couple of people with mics, I think. Do you have your microphones? What breaks your heart? We're going to have our young people come around with microphones. What breaks your heart? Anybody want to share what you've heard or what you feel?
Something I work with a lot of kids. And I was the privilege of being at a conference yesterday with a lot of educators, mental health professionals, and guidance counselors. And one of the things that we talked about was the heartbreaking fight that our trans youth are facing right now, and the endless hate and legislature that is being brought forth to try to make a group of people feel like they don't deserve to be here and they're not human just like us. And so that is what's currently weighing on me and breaking my heart.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our group talked a lot about the lack of community, of people actually being together. And then part of that, since we are not actually with real people very much, thank you, Twitter, violence doesn't seem to matter. It isn't real because the people aren't real. And so certainly what breaks my heart is just the normalization and the comfortability with violence as an answer.
One of the things that concerns me is our environment and my grandson and his grandchildren and their grandchildren and what will be left of our earth. And I was telling Sylvester that we live in a very nice neighborhood, and I look around and we have solar panels. I'm really happy about that. We have an electric car. These cost money, so I'm not saying that makes me better than other people. What I'm saying is I look around at other comparable houses without solar panels and without electric cars, and I think that, of course, my priorities are correct, and that all those people ought to get with the program. There you go.
Thank you.
I think the thing that we kind of covered a variety of areas. One, at your door, and then the in the church and on the community, and for in African countries that are real, that the common the person is that you're fighting, that's knocking out their door, that wants to come to your.
Thank you. We had a little bit of trouble with that mic, so.
Okay, sorry. So we were talking about the fact that truth doesn't seem to matter. So you look at something like January 6th and say, oh, that didn't really happen, or that wasn't all what you thought it was, even if you were watching it. And so you have fighting, usually partisan fighting over issues about basic, what you observe. And you can't get Republicans and Democrats to agree on anything if you can't even agree on what truth is, what you saw. And now if you're banning books, how are people going to be able to even learn what the truth is? Because you're cutting off the access to find out what the truth is.
Thank you. Others, this side. One up here? One down here? Oh, okay. This mic, can we replace that mic or not?
Is it working?
There we go, there we go.
I think our gun control laws, the ones we have that aren't being enforced, and the ones we don't have that we should, it's been my opinion that no private citizen should have an AK-47, and it seems to me to be fairly common sense. And it looks to me like some of the states that have really poor gun control laws, which includes a state that I came from, originally from North Carolina, they're reaping some of the harvest of their lack of common sense. And then the other thing is the abortion issue and how some of the states and the Supreme Court handled it seemed to me to be wrong.
Thank you. At the back.
Oh, I'll continue what Terry said. I was 13 at Columbine. I was 16 when my school went into round-the-clock lockdown because a sniper was shooting up the DC area. I was 21 when my best friend called me and told me she'd fled a mass shooting. I am 37 and I have a 5-year-old daughter, and she will never know a life without school lockdowns and active shooter rehearsals. And it angers me and saddens me that a generation has gone by and we haven't solved this.
In front.
For me, what makes me close to hopelessness is what is becoming almost a deep and abiding distrust that there is any goodness left to work for. That lead and understanding, which is really fearful to me, that the one with the most toys when it all ends wins.
Thank you. Thank you. Over, I see over here in the back.
I think it must be me. I don't see anybody.
No, there's someone in the back, and then you, and you'll be our last one.
Well, I'll just stand right here till I get a chance.
What breaks your heart? What makes you sad?
She got shy, but she said something very, very beautiful before about how much it breaks her heart when people don't take care of the earth.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And our last one.
After hundreds of thousands of years, we are still tribal. We still kill each other. We still decide whether someone has value by how they look, not by who they are. Let's be kinder to each other.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. We are a people living with so much trauma. We are a people who are carrying so much, and we have sighs that are too deep for words. It's so important that we name these. Lament is a part of our tradition, is it not? The Psalms are a part of this. So I invite you to take it, and we've been sharing, you need to name these things. Without naming them, our hearts become stone. So take a deep breath. Let it out. Take another one and let a moan escape. And take one more. It feels good, doesn't it? We're going to moan together. We're going to give a sigh too deep for words. So one more. Think of all those things. Where is our own hope to be found? We want to put the blame on this hopelessness on the 4-year presidency of Donald Trump. Because from his bully pulpit, he made it fashionable to mock those with disabilities, to be proud of sexual misconduct, and cultivate a fear towards anyone who wasn't white, cis, straight, and male. Like a master promoter of fascism, Trump managed to call into legitimacy, to question the legitimacy of the democratic process, the institutions that not only provide accountability, like journalism, and those that defend democracy, like the military, but also those that provide free access to information, like public schools and libraries. Pandora's box was opened, and out came things we could no longer deny. The classism that sells to the poor the myth that they are only temporarily poor, which encourages them to vote against their own self-interests. An America First agenda that desires walls for boundaries rather than open doors, failing to take into account the interrelatedness of all human beings and the connections nations have with each other, and the depth of racism that is so deeply embedded in this nation's history. How deeply? How deeply is that racism embedded? Who gave us the gift of the Statue of Liberty? France. France in 1885, France assembled, then disassembled, shipped, reassembled, and dedicated finally in 1886. Did you know that the original design of the Statue of Liberty, conceived by 2 French abolitionists after the Civil War, had Lady Liberty clutching broken chain in her left hand? Do you see that in her left hand down there? Broken chain. It was their tribute to the end of slavery. They believed that at the end of the Civil War marked the realization of the Declaration of Independence, liberty and justice for all. But what happened? Before America would accept the gift, it was required that the design be changed, and now hidden at the base of the statue, totally not visible to anyone, those broken chains lay at Lady Liberty's feet. You and I can guess why those broken chains were to remain hidden. Those who oppress have a vested interest in maintaining the oppressed status of others. Even though slavery ended with the Emancipation Proclamation, Jim Crow, and now the new Jim Crow of the cradle to prison pipeline, continues to enslave. And that enslavement continues beyond race. Too many of us, because of the color of our skin, because of who we love, because we are a little odd or eccentric, because we're colorful, because we don't fit in, because of our size or shape, have been tamed and domesticated in subtle ways, or, as anyone who has been bullied knows, not so subtle ways. We have been force-fed lies about our innate goodness, the unique beauty of our personhood, and those lies have made us less than who we truly are, enslaved by another's expectation of who we are, rather than who we are created to be as a reflection of the image of God. Sadly, our enslavement has come from the very institution that should be helping our soul's liberation, the church. Especially the United Methodist Church, gay men, lesbians, bisexuals, transgender, intersex, queer folks have been relegated in our laws as a second-class citizen, resulting in a stifling of call and an entrapment of spirit. Is it any wonder why we are feeling such hopelessness? Sociologists have long studied the political separation between clergy and laity. But what's been fascinating is that the division has moved from between the pulpit and the pew to the individual rows of the pew, as the gospel of Jesus Christ has been replaced by the unholy epistle of Tucker Carlson. As if working from the same playbook, the traditionalists of the church and their allies like the Institute on Religion and Democracy have used half-truths, mistruths, and no-truths to foster discontent in our pews and divide our households of faith. As my Aunt Connie used to say when she was most exasperated, this is one mell of a hess. So I come back to the question, where is hope to be found? For most of my ministry, I've been in ministry with marginalized and oppressed communities, almost my entire ministry. Whether poor rural farmers, LGBTQ persons, people of color, those with addictions, or those who are unhoused, I began to notice a pattern. The first thing that is robbed, and I mean robbed, when one is forced to society's margins, is one's imagination and ability to dream. It is intentional because, as we know from Scripture, without a vision, the people perish. Without the ability to consider a world other than the one you're living, it means you are forever shackled into the chains of oppression. You can't imagine your way out to a different way of life, and you are totally made impotent and cannot raise up and challenge the very powers and principalities that have you in their stranglehold. One of the saddest pastoral conversations I ever had was with someone who was recently released on parole. The person was feeling overwhelmed by his freedom. He had been trained by his enslavement and oppression to fear freedom. So he had been taught to mistrust himself, to hate himself, and to believe that he was not worthy of freedom. Freedom had become something so mysterious and so terrifying that he actually opted to go back to prison to live out the rest of his parole until his sentence was over. He isn't the only one. I've known too many people who have willingly taken on the shackles of a loveless relationship, who have allowed drugs, alcohol, and other addictions to beat their spirits into submission, who have chained themselves to a cracked self-image that belies the beauty within. So how do we restore a sense of hope? If one's ability to imagine, to dream, to have a vision of something different has been taken from you, how can one have hope that propels us into a better future? Sean Ginwright is a professor of education in Africana studies in the Bay Area. An innovator, a provocateur, and thought leader, he founded and is the CEO of Flourish Agenda, a consulting firm whose mission is to design strategies that unlock the power of healing and engage youth of color and adult allies in transforming their lives, schools, and communities. Jen Wright knows something about how trauma and oppression rob one of the ability to dream something better, and even more, how to begin to build it. I love his antidote to all of this. Play and laughter. Play and laughter restore joy, which reclaims hope. You know, we are really serious about our lives. I mean, we are serious about our lives. We have taken on the roles and responsibilities of adulthood. My hunch, you can prove me wrong, is that we see play as trivial, a waste of time, and something reserved for children. And I think we've rewritten 1 Corinthians 13. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. I played like a child. When I became an adult, I put away such childish ways. The problem is, we've thrown out a key element that lifts our spirit and helps release imagination. And not only have we rejected play as life-giving activity, we've also suppressed play in our children, scheduling their lives so tightly as our own. When children no longer engage in play, no longer develop and utilize imagination, is it any wonder why our children and young people are mired in despair? Come home. Come home. You who are weary this day. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling. Calling, oh, calling, come play. Where is play in our common life? As a church, where do we engage in life-giving play? I'm not talking about godly play that's reserved for children. In fact, I think godly play, that wonderful Sunday school curriculum, should be for adults too. How does play both deepen intimacy and strengthen community? How does it embolden us to move from play to prophetic leadership? Jen Wright talks about how play helps us embody necessary pivots which allow for a movement from the assessment of the way things are to an orientation to the way things can be. For instance, in basketball, a pivot requires 4 seamless and interwoven traits. When a player has the ball, they pivot in order to advance down the court. This pivot requires that they stop momentarily, reflect on what's happening. They have an awareness of the relationship of other players around them. They maintain the focus without distraction, and they calmly and confidently flow into another direction. You don't see it because it happens in the course of an instant. This can happen as individuals, as communities, and as a society. A pivot acknowledges the pivots we learn from play, when brought into our world, can help us acknowledge the collective harm and individual injury, but it also opens up to a future and entirely new possibilities. A pivot involves renewing our own sense of possibility, transforming how we see the world, and shifting the values of our culture. This can only happen when we foster collective imagination that restores communal wisdom, which embraces both imagination and engagement, empathy and power, reflection and action. A pivot means that we need to dream higher about the future we seek to create. This playful restoration of joy in order to create a better tomorrow has become a total passion for me. Karen Monk knows this. We're in a covenant group, and I've talked with my covenant group about this. I know you're going to be shocked, but I can't say that the 7 years of my episcopacy has been a bed of roses. Well, to be honest, there are beautiful blossoms, but there have been sticky and painful thorns. It's hard. It's hard when I'm told on a regular basis, do you know why the United Methodist Church is splitting up? Because of you. I had no idea I had that much power. Or that I should resign from my position, or that I deserve to be dead. Here's my favorite suggestion. Well, one, okay, I'll share this. I get these calls regularly. My pastor tells me we need to leave the United Methodist Church because you use tarot cards to make decisions in your annual conference. I want you to know something, and I know it's going to be shocking. I use prayer. I use holy conversation, and I let the Holy Spirit lead me to right answer. But here's one of my favorites. I receive, and it's given as a loving suggestion. Because they say, it's clear you're really called to this ministry. So if you want to remain in the episcopacy, you should get a divorce. You know what? Nothing says the love of God and neighbor as suggesting to loving, committed couples that they ought to divorce. To top it off, though, with all of that, I recently have lost two people who helped form me, my mother and a beloved uncle. So it has been a soul-crushing time. And at the end of 2022, as I took stock of my life, I realized that joy was gone. And joy is fundamental to who I am. It's what my faith has provided me my entire life. To feel its void in my life scared me. It made me realize this is why I'm so tired and run down and depressed, why I had no creativity, no passion, no enthusiasm. All the fruits of joy were gone from my life. So I decided, as 2023 dawned, I was gonna make space for joy in my daily calendar. Each day, for 1 hour, I would do the things that would make my soul sing. It would be in the middle of the day, not after 5 o'clock when I am exhausted from the workday. It might need to shift depending on the day, but every day would have 1 hour of joy. Now, I let my whole conference staff see my calendar. And as I placed the time on my calendar, I realized I should probably have a different name for that hour than personal joy time. So it became PJ time, which I don't know if that's any better. Might be awkward, but no one has asked me what it means. Tell you, when PJ time pops up on my calendar, a huge smile spreads across my face as I push my chair away from the desk and play for an hour. Perhaps I was working on some music, or reading, or hiking, or playing cards with Robin, or this is one of my passions, and I'm back into it, learning a new magic trick, right? But for 1 hour a day, I play. And that has helped joy return. And with it, creativity. And with it, an ability to envision the world I believe God is calling me to co-create with others. So now it's your time again. How about you? How do you play? And I want you to share. How do you play? And how does it give birth to joy and creativity in other areas of your life? I shared what my PJ time is. So I hope you'll share what your playtime is. So take another 10 minutes. Make sure everybody gets a chance to share. Sometimes we get so caught up, we forget to make space for others. So if you were the last person to speak last time, you're the first person this time. So take 10 minutes.
God save the king!
We're going to do some sharing again, okay? Okay. Take another minute to wrap up. One more minute. And let's share. Let's share. I must admit, I don't know, did you feel the energy in the room was a little bit higher? Yes. So share. Share some. How do people play? How do you play? And how does it give birth? Yeah, let's hear it.
I play by going out to Thatcher Park and looking down over the valley in all the seasons. So I watch spring come. I feel the heat of the summer as I sit on the wall. I watch the colors come and be gorgeous in the fall. And I even enjoy the bleakness of the snow and the winter and the cold.
Doing beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Over here, yeah, how do you play?
Sometimes I play with my stuffies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with my dolls.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing how you play. Thank you. Others?
I
Yeah, we hear you.
I usually I usually get out in the garden and just totally zone out
Zone out.
and forget about everything and just play whether it's raining or it's nice, mud, dry, whatever.
Nice, nice. Others?
I actually,
How do you play?
I think I'll make a man out of you from Milan.
Nice. I love that. Thank you.
Right?
Okay, who else? Who else? How do you play?
This will surprise the people here who know me. Right? I've got the joy, 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 joy
Down in my heart. You sing. Yes, I love it. Love it.
My husband and I have been married for 55 years, and we constantly play. I used to say we fool around, but that had bad connotations.
I'm not going to put fool around time in my calendar.
I also do weird little things to keep me happy.
You going to give us an example?
Yes. My husband watches English Premier Soccer. One of the teams is Tottenham. The captain is Harry Kane. Meet Harry Kane.
Oh, love it.
That makes me happy every time I say it.
I love it. Love it.
Yes, you might want to pray for me.
Years ago, I was visiting a pastor, and I found above him on the wall when we were talking, a little sign that said, "I cannot change the wind, but I can adjust the sails." And one of the fun ways to play is to see how you can adjust the sails.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, on my office wall is a G.K. Chesterton quote, "Angels fly because they take themselves lightly." Yeah, yeah, yeah. Others?
I literally play. I play the trombone. Seriously. So music, even in retirement, music's very important. So is my photography. And I found that in retirement, I have to structure my time too, a certain extent. And I can fall into the trap of not playing.
Anybody else?
You said I?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on. My idea of playing is every morning when I get up, I start my day with play.
Oh.
I love words, so I do crossword puzzles. I love cards, so I play pinochle against the machine.
Oh.
I look at cartoons. This is all in the morning before I do anything else. So I start my day off playing, and then I'm ready to face the day.
I love that. Thank you. We'll do one more. One more. Anybody else? There's one over here. Yeah.
Hi, Bishop. This is a game I learned in seminary. We call it the cheese of truth. You take a piece of Swiss cheese, you open up the Bible, you drop the cheese of truth onto the page, and you try to write a sermon based on the words you can see.
Oh my God.
Another fun variation on the game is to take that and to try to write a really terrible sermon, like a deeply problematic sermon, using only the words that you can. That's just a mental exercise. But yeah, the cheese of truth, it's an adventure just waiting to happen.
So, you know, when I started as Bishop of the Mountain Sky Conference, you know, my district superintendents, I mean, they were under so much pressure, right? Who is this bishop? Is she legitimate? Right? I mean, and they, you know, they had so much hostility they had to deal with, and it was hard. So I would make them play. One time we did a sing-along Jesus Christ Superstar, but I had one of the DSs borrow the Christmas costumes from one of the churches. So we were all in costume. And we had money and palms, and we played together. We did a lot. They're going to write a book. I told them they should write a book. But by playing together, our creativity just grew exponentially. I mean, we could have been mired in being so serious. And right now, with where the church is right now, we could just be. Well, I should share something about the Council of Bishops meeting, but I'm not going to. But, okay, I'll share this. I noticed that all the other judicatory heads, like when the Episcopalians got together, when the Lutherans got together for the first time past COVID, they didn't go right into meetings. It was the first time being together in years. They played. They played pickleball, right? They went kayaking. They hiked before they did their work. And I wonder how our last week would have been different if we had taken time to play first. So as you wrestle with really hard stuff in your church, try playing first. Robin and I, when we realize like laughter has been gone from our life, what do, Robin? We laugh. We just start laughing. And it's a fake laugh at first, but then it becomes a belly laugh, and suddenly the world is much better. So my prayer is that a seed of hope has been planted in your soul. May what we've done here today give you hope through daily laughter and play. In this way, may you begin a pivot of possibility that helps you move from inertia to forward movement that enables you to build a better tomorrow for yourself, those around you, for those who will come after you. I am open and I am willing to be hopeless, which seems so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift us up to the light of change. Amen. You want to introduce this time? Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Most of you figured it out, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The secrets to the microphones are to hold them up so they work best on top and not on the side, and to swallow them a little. I didn't design them, that's just how they work. And I am so thankful to Zach and Miriam for being willing to run around and get you microphones. And yeah. And I am going to stand here and cut you off if you go too long so she gets to be gracious.
Excuse me.
And what questions would you like to ask?
And it doesn't have to be related to this, right? There's a lot going on in the world and the church, and you could start with this, but I am a uncensored bishop.
Yeah.
I don't censor.
I find it interesting that the area of the church in the United States that you represent are red. I think I'm correct. Red states mainly. Am I correct on that?
Well, it's funny because someone said to one of the leaders in the church, "I can't believe they gave you the first openly gay bishop."
Well,
You're so conservative. And she said, we're not conservative, we're libertarian. We don't give a what you do.
So did you end up getting assigned that area to, and maybe to help make change, or were you able to pick that area?
No. Like clergy, bishops are assigned. We're assigned for 4-year terms. So I was assigned there. I was from Cal, Nevada. I had started my ministry in the New York conference. Never lived really far from an ocean. And so this is a whole new territory for me. Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, one church in Seminole, 430,000 square miles. I didn't choose it, and I had to learn who they were and what was important to them. Oh, thank you. So this conference in 1982, Bishop Mel Wheatley ordained the first openly gay clergy. 1982. Those of you, yes, those of you who sing, "Ours the journey," what is it? What's that? "Ours the journey," right? "In the Midst of New Dimensions." It was written by out gay clergy in my conference. So they have a long history of engaging LGBT folks. We have several trans representatives. One person's in the news right now, Zoe Zephyr, who was kicked out of legislation. But it's interesting. I was run out of one town under the threat of violence. That town had a choice at its founding to either have a university or a prison, and they chose a prison, and they have 13 prisons. And they ran me out of town, but the town heard that they had hosted me for a meeting, and the pushback was so violent they needed to put panic buttons throughout the church because the threat of violence was so severe. But people, this is what I've learned. When you meet people where they are, not where I am, where they are, and you want to know what's important to them, and you want to hear what they need to do better ministry, and you love them, we all change. I change. They change. So it's been really a wonderful time we've had together. Thank you.
Zach, I'm seeing Jane in the back.
I just want to say, in May of 2017, I participated in a upper room 5-day spiritual academy in Britain with the British Methodists. And the small group leader I was privileged to have was a laywoman from your conference. And one of the Brits asked about you. And without missing a beat, she said, "We love her."
So here's the thing, right? People, there was a lot of reactivity, and we kind of had our disaffiliation in 2016 when I was assigned there. But people said, the word got out, if you want to keep not liking the bishop, don't meet her. Yeah.
Hi. I thank you for being here. I appreciate it very much. Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
So I have just been struggling over the years with a call to ministry. I kind of feel like Jonah in the belly of the whale. And this is just, as you mentioned, it's a very difficult time in the church, especially in the United Methodist Church, not just with the split, but also just the decline of local attendance and the stress and pressure that are on clergy. And so as someone who's struggling to answer a call, what advice would you give to me? Like, why would I ever go into ministry? Because it's really hard. And so, yeah, how would you counsel me?
What's your name? Angela. I have to say, for me, I know of no other way to be faithful than what I'm doing. And that's part of your discernment. Is there another way to be faithful? And if not, know that there's joy, right? Right? There is joy in this life. I get up every day so excited about what I get to do and the people I get to do it with. Yes, really. And don't close a door unless God's closing it. I've seen too many people say it's going to be too hard, and they have no idea that actually, if it's right, the doors will open. And so don't close, don't shut down. It's hard, but life is hard. And part of what we get to do in acknowledging it's hard, we acknowledged it's hard here, but we also recognize there's joy. And that's what matters. Go for it.
Miriam, Ray is waving at you over there. Behind you. There you go, sweet.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be home in New York.
Amen. I just want to share with the crowd our connection back at Drew.
Oh my gosh, now I know who you are.
Watch out. Yes, so for these folks, they don't know that you were a resident advisor on one of the floors of the dormitory that I was a resident director in.
Yes, Ray.
Yes, so that's where we go back. But here's the thing you have not heard from me yet. When I needed to be gone for a weekend or whatever off of the campus, and of the other 4 resident advisors, I had hoped that you would be the one who would take over the dorm because I trusted you so much in that role.
Thank you. It is so good to see you. I was asking if you were still around.
Oh, yeah, but not everybody wants that.
Wait.
I have 2 things. After you spoke to this woman, I'm glad I had waterproof mascara on. It's amazing and beautiful. But I've been curious. You're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. How did that happen?
Wonderful question, and hear this, okay? It's all about God, right? I mean, all I did, so the rules changed. I had my call to ministry when I was 11 years old. There were no rules, right? And all I did was offer myself. I said, I have this call. And my home church, of which Tom Carney's here and Dana's here, they said, yes, we see that call and we're going to nurture it. And then the District Board of Ordained Ministry said, yes, we see that call, we're going to nurture it. And then the Board of Ordained Ministry said, yes, we see that call, we're going to nurture it. And every church I've served, every DS I've had, every bishop I've served under said, we see that call. More than that, you know, you shall know them by their fruits, the Bible says. We see the fruits of your life. We know you're being faithful. So my thing was, there was a time when I almost left the church because I was so upset. And I tried, and it felt like I was cutting off an arm. Because my call is as much a part of me as my sexual orientation. It's an identity that goes deep in my soul. And so I had no intention of being a bishop. Right? Robin and I did everything we could not to. And People were coming. I knew my ministry was finished to glide. You know when you've done what you're called to do. And I remember talking with Tom about this. I don't know if it's time for retirement. And really wondering, God, am I done? And that's when people started to say, we need you. We need you to be a bishop. And I was like, no. I love my relationship. I love the church so much. I don't want to harm either one. And finally, they said, now, annual conference, when we endorse our bishop candidates, is on Wednesday. We need to know by Sunday. Like, I didn't run. I don't believe in running. You can't run for this position. Either the Holy Spirit lifts you up or not. And so Robin and I, on Saturday night, went to a Mexican restaurant to pray. And there may have been a margarita involved. But we started to talk about I started to talk about what I was most afraid of. And there was a lot of fear. And Robin, being a good former Baptist, said, perfect love casts out all fear. And I have to say that totally released it. And we remember this part a little differently, but I went to bed knowing that I was going to call them in the morning and say, you can bring my name forward. We woke up on June 12th to learn of the Pulse nightclub shooting. And instead of fear taking over, a conviction that it's time for someone like me to be at the table with other bishops. And so we said, you can bring our name forward, never thinking, never dreaming. And I got the endorsement from my annual conference. 2 weeks later was jurisdictional. My name was always number one through 17 votes, always number one, never getting enough votes. We only were electing one. People were dropping out. If you go to the Western Jurisdiction website, you will hear the most incredible speeches. It was like the Holy Spirit was moving us all. And finally, the Episcopacy Committee said, we're having a closed session with delegates. I was a delegate. And so we were in these small groups, and she said, I want you to answer this question. What would happen to your church, to your conference, to our denomination if we elected an openly gay bishop? But you know the story of the 100th monkey with the washing of the banana peel and suddenly monkeys around the world? Well, all of a sudden the question in every small group got turned around. What would happen if the most qualified person for this moment in the life of the church was openly gay and we didn't elect them? And I was elected shortly after that with 100% of the votes. Excuse me? What? God works? No, the Holy Spirit, every one of us, because people said, oh, there goes the Western jurisdiction, giving it to the rest of the church. But they're like, no, you weren't in the room. I still get chills. We all get chills when we talk about it. The Holy Spirit was there. The Holy Spirit. And you know what? When the Holy Spirit shows up, you can't stop it. So, you are our gift.
And even though I haven't hugged you yet, be prepared.
Oh, you know what? I am the only bishop that had to go to physical therapy because I was hugging too much. I got a hug wound. I had to go to physical therapy after my first year of being a bishop because I just kept pulling something, and I noticed that in order to not have pain, I was going into people like this, and I love to box, but that's not what I was doing. So I had to go to physical therapy, so I look forward to the hug.
I love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, one there.
I don't want to dredge up the past, but you
will.
I will. You may have met a guy who used to be our Episcopal leader around here. What advice do you offer to a conference who is in the midst of transition, hopeful transition, but that is still hurting and is still divided in many ways?
You have a wonderful bishop now, wonderful bishop. So, and I would say this: play together. Make sure when clergy gather, there's playtime. Make sure when annual conference happens, also be engaged in mission together. Mission unites us across the various languages and theological positions we have. But also say this: I think we're in this current moment because we clergy have not done a good job of teaching our theology and helping deepen discipleship, and we need to do that in partnership with laity. And by doing that, I think we wind up more united than we can even imagine. Another question here.
I wanted to know if you wanted to learn a magic trick. Have you learned Jack and Jill?
You're going to have to teach me later.
Oh, no, I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Let's see it. I love this. Here, I'll hold this for you.
So all you need is Kleenex. And you put...
Don't tell the answer. They didn't pay you for it.
You put the two little pieces on.
Okay.
And this is Jack and this is Jill.
Okay.
Or it can be anybody.
Okay.
Okay. So we got Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it no. Not that one. So one is Jack, two little blackbirds sitting on a hill. One named Jack, one named Jill. Fly away, Jack. Fly away, Jill. Come back, Jack. Come back. Oh, I lost.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, I'm gonna try that later. There's another question over here. Thank you.
I'm just curious. Since you left San Francisco, do you still have your tutu and do you still dance the Nutcracker?
You know what? They had it on, yes. So I used to be the concert hall for the Lesbian and Gay Freedom Band, marching band, but my church was their sit-down concert. And they had their very first, in my sanctuary, the dance-along Nutcracker, where you rented a tutu and danced. And it got so big they had to go to a bigger concert venue. And over COVID, Dana, they had it online, and Robin and I danced in our tutus through our house with da 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 da. It was fabulous. So yes, I do.
Karen, I just need to warn you about that trick, the fly away Jack, fly away Jill. Our son Nicky learned that, and he was so thrilled with it. He was doing it in the school bus on the way home, and you know it means throwing up that finger.
Right.
Now, while you're doing it, that middle finger. If you
No, she didn't use her middle finger, just so you know.
Finger. Well, Nicky
did,
and
apparently.
it was innocent. It was really innocent. Yeah, Nicky's innocent. But he had his little things on his middle finger. The driver saw him do it, and Nick ADHD and wanted to take the bus driver on that he was crazy, that Nicky wasn't giving everybody the finger, and I ended up in the principal's office over Fly Away Jack, Fly Away Jill. So use the right finger.
Thank you. I will, because it would get out. IRD would let you know if I use that middle finger.
Oh, they'll say you did anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I find I have a question.
Okay.
I am looking out and seeing beloveds of God who were ordained in the United Methodist Church and are no longer serving in the United Methodist Church. And I so appreciated the way you spoke to Angela. And I wonder if you have words to speak to those who have been destroyed by our church. Sorry, you all were having fun. I'm a downer.
One, I stand to offer an apology on behalf of the church, as a bishop of the church. The church has done horrible things to people's souls. And if the church can't be a place where our souls can be entrusted, how faithful are we being to the gospel? So I want to apologize. I pray that you have found a safe spiritual home. We all need a spiritual home. And I pray you have found that, and I apologize that our United Methodist Church is not. I pray you have found a place to serve. Every one of us as a disciple of Jesus are called to serve somewhere. To not serve, whether it's as a lay person or an ordained ministry, to not serve somewhere means our discipleship is faltering, and the church has done that. So I'm sorry, and I am willing to catch your tears, to listen as you, because I do believe if we don't tell these stories that we hold, they fester in us. And so I'm willing to hear your story of how the church has harmed you. Question over there.
I'm seeing Brendan, and Zach's getting a mic to Brendan.
Hi again, Bishop. I was a student at Drew Theological School, not the undergrad, sorry. But you visited us in May of 2019, and something I've had written in my phone ever since is that there are prophets among us. Their words have power, and we are to listen to them. And I thank you for being a prophet among us today, but I also am interested to hear what are the prophetic voices that you're hearing today that we should all be listening to, whether we are or not? Are there folks that we should be looking to listen to, that you can guide us towards today?
Our young people, even with the despair they feel, we've got to listen. They hold some prophetic imagination that we need to be attuned to. I have to say that the prophets in my life haven't been in a classroom. They haven't been in a big steeple church. They haven't been strong orators. They have been drug addicts. They have been the unhoused. They've been the poor. They've been people of color. And that's where I go to be inspired by their prophetic message. And my task then is to become a partner in the struggle.
Hi, Karen. I'm Carol Green, and your sister Allison is my best friend from college.
Yes! Carol Powell.
Yes, yes. And I just want to say hi to you and Robin. Are you taking a picture of me?
Yeah.
And I just hi to Robin too. I a few years ago in Oneonta when you were there doing a workshop at my mom's church, and I am happy that my husband is here today. He this is the first time that he gets to see you, and so I'm very pleased about that. But I also want to say that I'm going.
Oh, sorry, we didn't hear that last one. Hold it up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take your message of play home with me and to my home.
Wonderful.
Hello?
Yep.
To my home church, because I think that it's very, very important and a great way to rebuild community.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. You know, Sarah, I have to say that one of the things that I am like, we are a connectional church, and we're seeing it right here, right? I mean, from Drew and from family and past lives and camp and home. This is but this is why being a United Methodist is so amazing, because we are doing this work hand in hand, even if we're thousands of miles away, and we're praying for one another, and we're supporting one another, and we're telling each other stories. You've given me a great gift today. Thank you.
And you probably can't eyeball them, but these are some of the strongest workers for justice in Upper New York, who have made sure that they are here today to be filled up.
Wow.
And it is all of those shivers, and we sometimes call ourselves Upper New York for full inclusion, so we spell unify wrong. And these are the workers.
Well, again, when people talk about disaffiliation, and we've seen churches on the progressive side disaffiliate, and it breaks my heart because we get to bring each other along on the journey, right? I mean, that's what I love. And when I look at churches that are disaffiliating, they're not going to be around that long. No. But we get to keep passing on to the next generation. So thank you. Thank you. This is...
It sure is. I'm seeing Marty, and then Zach behind you, I'm seeing Beth.
Marty Swords Harrell, about to retire after 40 years, started out in the New York conference. But they still let me continue on the delegation for general jurisdictional. So we may actually have a general conference after it's been posted.
And then we're going to have another one and another one, all within like a couple of years. So
what words do you have for the delegation? What's our best hope for? What should we... Hard to say what exactly will happen if it actually does happen. I'll be amazed.
Right, 24, and then we're supposed to have one in 26 and then 28. Be unified as a delegation. Know who your other allies are across the connection. Be in conversation. Be a movement together for the vision of the church God has given us. Is there another one here?
My name is Beth Long Velasquez, and I actually have an indirect connection with you too, but through somebody at the Park Hill United Methodist Church who...
Robin's Church.
There you go, who just was so excited you would be here. But I've, through a past job, I spent quite a bit of time in Africa, and I spent about a year in Mozambique at one point, and at the end of my time with this place, I spent a year in Ivory Coast, and in both places I was blessed to spend almost all of that year in congregations there. And I have been struggling with the concern that as we move forward as a denomination with the pains that we've had, I've watched a lot of people blame Africa. I'm going to be really the African church. And as a person who was in a couple of African churches, that's all I can speak to as a local member without, I didn't move my membership, but participated. I struggle with the narrow understanding that we have of another group of Methodist faith. And I just need to put that out there because I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that, because I know it's affected other places. That how do we take care not to cause the same amount of pain and rupture for another group of people, perhaps on a different problem that we've all just gone through? How do we take care as a people who have been hurt to not hurt and bring that forward without intention, but with impact to other people?
Thank you. I don't know how many of you know Ruby Sales, a civil rights leader, and Ruby has this question she asks, where does it hurt? And I really believe that's the question. And you were saying, what do we do with the hurt? We have to ask, where does it hurt? And start our relationships from there. And I think you're right. There's a lot of, I think progressives are really not being kind and being incredibly dismissive to the African church in the various countries and cultural contexts. One of the things, I was in a small group one of my first meetings with a group of bishops, and one of these things is not like the other. And so we're in this small group and people are talking about the challenges. And at that time, my election had created a real challenge across the church. And people were talking about it. And then one of the African bishops said, I am really committed to this work around inclusion, but it's not the highest work in my area. I have had 4 pastors murdered. I have a severe drought. Entire families are dying out. And when you realize where the pain is there and why what the U.S. church is saying is such a critical issue doesn't even hit the surface for them, that how do we in the U.S. church go to the pain, and how do we offer them a glimpse of our pain so that we can develop deeper relationships together? Robin and I have done a lot of work in Kenya. We have a nonprofit we created working with HIV children who primarily are orphans. And it's really funny because we're in relationship and almost everyone we've brought to work there is LGBT. Meeting where the pain is in that community and being open to learning and serving has changed all of us. And I believe that's what we have to do. We have to be willing to be changed ourselves and not point blame, but go where the pain is.
Hi, Bishop.
Hi.
I'm a Druid too.
All these Druids. There's only like one Druid in my conference, just so you know.
Oh.
And I'm on the board of that other Methodist seminary in my region. I live.
I'm the only Claremont School of Theology grad in the conference.
So you know,
Yeah.
Mhm. When I was at Drew, we had a meeting with Frank Schaefer
Mhm.
and
his son, Tim?
No, from here, the pastor from here before, Steve
Klon.
Steve Klon, and the person from Mind. So there were 3 people there, and one of my African students, my friends, stood up and said almost what our friend here just said, and he was a student, and he said to them, he said, "How do I explain to my friends that it is not my fault? And how do I go home, or I talk to my family at home, and how do I explain to them that it is not my fault?" And he's left, and he was our brightest, and he was one of our best, and he was one of the most amazing students that we had, and he's now left the United Methodist Church, and he's still in the United States. He's got his own church now, but we couldn't keep him. How do we keep our best and our brightest?
Thank you. And I think any DS here will say we are losing our best and brightest. I taught United Methodist History, Doctrine, and Polity for 12 years at Pacific School of Religion and several other seminaries. And the best students in my classes who were so passionate about ministry and loved our Wesleyan tradition, we have lost because they don't want to fight. They want to do ministry. And I am seeing my young clergy who have not been formed with the kind of resiliency needed in this moment of COVID and disaffiliation. And we aren't providing, we elders, I can't believe I said that about myself. we aren't doing the mentoring. And I'm not talking about, oh, I'll hold your hand, but really helping lift people up to be strong in this moment and to find their own voice, not our voice, but their voice. And it really concerns me because I look at the average age of United Methodist clergy. And, people say, oh, we want young clergy, and yet we also have lost our culture of call across our denomination. When was the last time your churches had someone enter ministry, when you tapped someone on the shoulder and said, I see God working in you, and I think you'd be a great pastor? We're not doing that. So there's a variety of systems that aren't working, but more than that, relationships that aren't working well to affirm people's calls and help them stay for the journey.
You mentioned that we have a fabulous new bishop. We do. How can we support him?
Pray for him. Write him little cards. We get a lot of stuff. You don't need to give him stuff. We have a whole room that we call the gift room. And there's always...
You don't need more dinner plates with church names on them?
Yeah. I want to be kind because because it's people's hearts. It's
right,
people's hearts.
They're given with love, yes.
Yeah. Invite him in. Invite him to be present, to be in conversation. Zoom him. He doesn't have to be here.
He is, by the way, preaching and presiding on World Communion Sunday.
Fantastic, in October.
Yeah.
But, zoom him into a Sunday school class. Zoom him into United Women in Faith. Let him know there's room for him and people who want to learn who he is and what he has to offer.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I see a hand here. Miriam, are you seeing up front a little bit? Oh, Lynette first. Hi, Lynette.
Hi. I'm Lynette. I think one of the things that's difficult to see is progressives across the board, clergy, laity, irrelevant, using shame as a tool for social justice. And so I see the rhetoric slandered all over Facebook, etc. And I think maybe a piece of advice as to how to continue to remind progressive clergy and laity to not give into the same tactics that we see used, and to continue to stand strong and be gentle and kind and loving in our rhetoric. I would wonder if you have a word on that for us.
Oh my gosh, it's one of the things that I go to in me. If I stray from that, I am really disappointed in myself. Whenever I go into a space, mainly because I don't know if I'm going to see a gun, because I'm in the unholy trinity of Columbine and Aurora Theater and the STEM shooting. These are all within a couple of miles from our house. And so that culture is real. I don't know if I'm going to see a gun, or if I'm in such a conservative place, they're going to vomit on me. But I have to be open to it. And so I always pray in the parking lot, God, give me an undefended heart, and may I be generous in love. And so if my words are not loving, I'm not being grounded in the God of love. And it's not shaming us to do better. It's imagining together where we're called to be. And how do we draw the best of ourselves, of our many selves? Because we all have something to offer, even the ones who get under our skin. Right? In fact, those are the people I most listen to, because they're going to teach me the most. And so how do we create those communities that allow not uniformity, but great unity in the midst of our diversity? So thank you. If we're not being kind, we're not creating a movement that will lead to kindness. Thank you. Very important.
And I think the last two people with mics are going to be the last two people with the chance to speak right now.
My name is LJ. I'm from Lansing United Methodist Church. We became a reconciling congregation a couple years ago with unbelievable, like across the board support, 97, 98%. And I mean, that's fantastic, right? It's wonderful. We've done that. We're proud of that. We're proud of that. I think and I'm 52. I have 3 teenagers, 2 of whom have given up on church. And I'm struggling, and all of them are champions for LGBTQ plus rights. All 3 of my children. Only 2 of them, 2 of them are just never going to be in the church. I know it. And only 1 of them is going to do that in a religious setting. So I think I'm struggling with what are our next steps as a church so that we know what to do to spread our reconciling nature, to show it, to offer it to our young people, especially those teenagers that feel that already but don't feel it for religion. Like, what do we do next?
You know, with our young people, if you build it, they will come isn't true, right? They're not going to come to church. What we do is so not tapped into spirit for them. And so how do we go where they are and create safe space for them where they are and look at different forms of Christian community that may or may not ever step into Sunday when St. Paul said we all meet at Sunday morning. I mean, I know somewhere he said it because we all do it. But I where I've seen incredible hope, I have churches that do coffee houses for queer kids and their allies. They have a ton of kids that show up. I cover Utah, and I was at one community, St. George, and I was there Saturday to be able to be there on Sunday, and it turned out it was Gay Pride, so I went to their Gay Pride Festival. The only faith community there was a Unitarian church. That place was filled with it was wall-to-wall young people. So how do you go to where people are showing up and say, we're here and we love you? That's all you have to say. We're here and we love you. And so leave the building and be in relationship with people. I want to say something. I'm going to riff off of something else. I'm so happy to hear you're a reconciling congregation. Here's a big difference between those disaffiliating and reconciling churches. I was a consultant for reconciling ministries for a long time and helping churches become reconciling. And you know what we always told them? We talked about this last night over dinner. You never take a vote until you are sure you're well over 90%. And why is that? Because we don't want anyone to feel pushed out, even as we're trying to widen the circle. So when we have these disaffiliation votes, when pastors lead them knowing that they are nowhere near at the end, all we're doing is fracturing the household of faith. And people who have been family for each other, who have sat and been in prayer together and brought casseroles when someone died and watched their kids. And there's something demonic in that. I just have to say that if we have to create church based on who we're leaving out, have we let Christ in? Sorry, just have to say that.
Hi, I'm George Herrick from First United Methodist in East Greenbush. You've answered part of my question really already when you talk about the kids, because you've done so much. You and other members of the LGBT community have done so much for our church in that particular area of concern of our church. But what about the kids you've just been talking about? I've got just a few kids in confirmation process right now because the school's sports schedules are in the way.
Yeah.
The school, well, we've got this calendar and and we've got this particular thing. What can I say to them? Why is church important? How do I answer for that for them?
You tell your truth, but then you invite others in to tell their truth, and preferably young people who look like them. They need to hear from their peers why it's important. And I think we schedule things in a model that worked in the 70s that doesn't work anymore. We haven't embraced technology in a way that allows for asynchronicity for them to engage. I mean, they have relationships online that we'll never have, those of us who are older. And so part of it is really working with them, giving them agency, helping them see. I think, I don't know if we learned the lessons of COVID, right? COVID gave us a lot of lessons. It showed us that we serve our building more than the building serves us in ministry. Mm-hmm. That we've created an idol out of our church buildings. I love church buildings. You need to know, I stepped in here and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this building. And most of our church buildings aren't suited for 21st century ministry. We learned that people, if you looked at your online records, most people didn't worship when you dropped it at 10 or 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. There were other times during the week that worked better. But what have we done? We've gone back. We haven't integrated those lessons. And as a result, we're not keeping up with where people are spiritually hungry. We have nuns, those who never knew the gospel. We have dones, people who said, I don't want this church. It's too fill in the blank, anti-environmental, and it's racist. So we have a whole group of people that are still hungry for something spiritual. But are we willing to take the gospel to them in a form that makes sense to them and build church from there? I kind of went all over the place, but happy to talk more during a break about that.
I'm going to invite Karen and Sylvester, who are the co-lay leaders of this church, to come forward and stand with you. We are at lunchtime, and I had an experience a year ago that was so moving. I was invited to speak to a community that was based primarily in the AME Zion Church. And after I spoke, they prayed for me, knowing that the Spirit had worked through me and I was empty. And that I needed to be filled back up. And I don't want to creep everybody out by trying to get a whole bunch of hands on you, but I would ask my lay leaders to put hands on you and the two people next to Robin to put hands on her, because you've been at Council of Bishops and then you just gave us all of this. And I'm going to incorporate grace in. Will you pray with me, beloveds? Holy One, we thank you for all the ways we are able to answer your calls in our lives. And for these women who have given so much to you and to yours and to each other. We ask that you fill them back up with all that they have given to the council and to us. May they find peace. May healing enter. May there be joy and laughter and play in abundance, with the knowledge that with everything you ask, you also make space for life abundant. And Holy One, as we have gathered here today to soak up goodness, may there also be blessing on the food and drinks that have been prepared, that we may acknowledge all the work that happened to get food from the ground and the sun and the rain to our tables, and may both the food and the space be blessed, that there might be healing and joy and laughter among us. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Lunch is that way.
Okay. I had never. About